With more venomous creatures than almost any other place on Earth, Australia is infamous for housing some of the deadliest animals known to humans. From towering saltwater crocodiles to great white sharks lurking in its waters, venom-packed jellyfish, and spiders larger than your hand, Australia's wilderness is a challenge only the brave dare face. But what if I told you, this dangerous land is nothing compared to what it used to be? Imagine prehistoric monsters that made today's threats look like mere pets, kangaroos the size of trucks with claws sharp enough to tear through flesh, and reptiles that could go head-to-head with dinosaurs. Welcome to Australia's wild past, where survival meant facing creatures so terrifying, even our nightmares would bow in fear. To understand how Australia became nature's experiment in creating the most terrifying creatures imaginable, we need to go way back. I'm talking about when dinosaurs roamed the Earth, and the continents were playing musical chairs on a global scale. About 180 million years ago, Australia decided it had enough of this whole being connected to other landmasses thing and slowly drifted away from Antarctica. Talk about social distancing on a continental scale. This isolation turned Australia into nature's very own Thunderdome. A land where evolution said, "Hold my beer," and created creatures that would make even the most hardened horror movie director say, "Nah, mate, that's a bit too much." Let's kick things off with a lizard that makes today's Komodo dragons look like cute little geckos. Meet Megalania, the tank-sized lizard that roamed Australia about 50,000 years ago. Imagine a Komodo dragon. Now imagine it's the size of a rhino. That's Megalania for you. This beast could grow up to 7 meters long and weigh up to 1,000 kilograms. That's like a small car with scales and an appetite for flesh, but size wasn't Megalania's only terrifying feature. Like its modern cousin, it probably had a venomous bite. So, if the initial chomp didn't get you, the venom coursing through your veins would. It's like nature decided, you know what would make this giant lizard even scarier? Poison. Let's add poison. Megalania was an apex predator of its time. Its size and potential venom made it a formidable hunter. Imagine being an early human in Australia and encountering this creature. It's the stuff of nightmares. Now, if you thought, well, at least I could climb a tree to escape these monsters, think again. Meet Thylacoleo carnifex, also known as the marsupial lion. This drop bear's angry grandpa combines the worst parts of a lion, a koala, and a nightmare. Thylacoleo had the strongest bite force relative to its body size of any known mammal species, living or extinct. Its teeth were less like individual choppers and more like a pair of terrifying garden shears attached to its face, but wait, there's more. This beast had a semi-opposable thumb with a huge claw, perfect for climbing trees and grabbing prey. Imagine a koala, but instead of lazily munching on eucalyptus, it's eagerly waiting to turn you into lunch. Thylacoleo represents a unique example of convergent evolution. It developed lion-like characteristics despite being a marsupial. Its hunting style would have been unlike anything we see in modern predators. Just when you thought it was safe to go back on land, enter Quinkana, the crocodile that said, "Water." Nah, mate, I prefer to chase my food on terra firma. Unlike its modern cousins who are basically logs with teeth, Quinkana had long, powerful legs built for running. Imagine a croc that could not only snap you in half, but also chase you down like a scaly greyhound. This land croc could grow up to 5 meters long and weighed around 500 kilograms. It was the perfect killing machine, the speed of a big cat with the bite force of a crocodile. Nature really outdid itself with this one. Quinkana represents a fascinating evolutionary path for crocodilians. It shows that given the right environmental pressures, even animals we consider fixed in their capabilities can drastically change. If you're afraid of snakes, you might want to close your eyes for this next bit. Meet Wonambi, the giant python that makes today's anacondas look like garden hoses. A Wonambi could grow up to 6 meters long and weigh up to 50 kilograms. That's about as long as a small car and heavier than most humans. This snake didn't just eat its prey, it could swallow a whole kangaroo in one gulp. Unlike modern pythons, Wonambi was an ambush predator. It would hide in trees or water, waiting for unsuspecting prey to wander by. Then, faster than you can say crikey, it would strike, constricting its victim before swallowing it whole. Wonambi represents an interesting case of convergent evolution. It developed similar hunting strategies to modern boars and pythons, despite not being closely related to them. It's a testament to the effectiveness of constriction as a hunting method. Now, let's talk about the bird that puts the terror in the terrible. Meet Dromornis sturtoni, affectionately known as the demon duck of doom. Spoiler alert, it's neither a duck nor particularly doom-y, but it is absolutely terrifying. Standing at a whopping 3 meters tall and weighing up to 500 kilograms, these birds make ostriches look like plucked chickens. They're basically what you'd get if you asked a mad scientist to create the most intimidating bird possible. But here's the kicker, despite their size and menacing appearance, these demon ducks were likely herbivores. That's right, all that bulk was powered by a plant-based diet. It's like nature's way of saying, see? Vegans can be terrifying too. Imagine you're a prehistoric shrub, minding your own business, when suddenly this feathered tank comes lumbering towards you. With its massive beak, Dromornis could easily strip branches clean or uproot entire plants. It's the botanical equivalent of a locust plague, but with each locust weighing as much as a small car. These big birds weren't picky eaters either. They roamed across a variety of habitats, from woodlands to grasslands, adapting to whatever menu the local plant life had to offer. Talk about a flexible diet plan. The presence of Dromornis would have had a significant impact on Australia's prehistoric flora. Their feeding habits likely shaped the evolution of many plant species, possibly contributing to the unique characteristics of modern Australian vegetation, but it wasn't all about eating. These birds likely had complex social lives too. Imagine a group of Dromornis gathering for a night out. It'd be like a heavy metal mosh pit, but with more feathers and less coordination. Dromornis sturtoni is a fascinating example of island gigantism. In the absence of large predators, these birds evolved to massive sizes. It really showcases the unique evolutionary paths that Australian fauna took. Their social behavior would have been quite something to witness. Think of it as a prehistoric bird rave. If you thought prehistoric Australia was terrifying on land, wait till you look up. Meet Pelagornis, the bird that makes modern seagulls look like harmless butterflies. With a wingspan of up to 6.4 meters, Pelagornis was one of the largest flying birds ever to exist. That's wider than some small airplanes. Imagine trying to have a peaceful day at the beach when this monstrosity decides to swoop down. But size isn't the only thing that made Pelagornis nightmare fuel. Its beak was lined with bony spikes that looked eerily like teeth. These pseudo-teeth were perfect for grabbing slippery fish or anything else unfortunate enough to catch its eye. Picture this, you're a fish, swimming along, having a grand old time in the prehistoric Australian seas. Suddenly, a shadow falls over you. You look up, and there's Pelagornis, its wingspan blotting out the sun, pseudo-teeth gleaming. Next thing you know, you're lunch. It's like the world's worst game of duck, goose, except the goose is the size of a light aircraft and you're the duck. But it wasn't all terror from above. Pelagornis had to come down to earth sometimes, particularly for nesting. Imagine entire colonies of these massive birds gathering on coastal cliffs. It'd be like a pterodactyl convention, but with more squawking and fish breath. Pelagornis represents the upper limit of how large a flying bird can get. Its pseudo-teeth are a remarkable example of convergent evolution, mimicking the function of true teeth. The nesting colonies of these birds would have been a sight to behold, and probably smell from quite a distance. Now, let's meet the bird that puts the wedge-tailed eagle to shame. Say G-Day to Tapetus, the powerhouse pseudoeagle of prehistoric Australia. Tapetus was like the wedge-tailed eagle's bigger, buffer cousin. With a wingspan reaching up to 3 meters, it was about 40% larger than today's largest eagles. If modern birds of prey are special forces, Tapetus was like the entire Army, Air Force, and Marines rolled into one feathery package, but size wasn't Tapetus' only claim to fame. Its beak and talons were proportionally larger and more powerful than those of modern eagles. These weren't just claws, they were nature's own set of steak knives, perfect for slicing through prey like a hot knife through butter. Imagine you're a cute, furry marsupial, maybe a prehistoric koala ancestor, just hanging out in your tree. Suddenly, you hear a whoosh of air, feel a vice-like grip, and before you can say, "Crikey, you're airborne," clutched in the talons of a tapetus. It's like the world's worst amusement park ride, except instead of a souvenir photo at the end, you become lunch. Tapetus wasn't picky about its meals either. From ancient kangaroos to other birds, if it moved and was smaller than tapetus, it was potential prey. This bird was the flying embodiment of "I'll eat anything that doesn't eat me first." Tapetus occupied a unique niche in prehistoric Australia's ecosystem. As an apex aerial predator, it would have played a crucial role in controlling populations of smaller animals. Its presence likely influenced the evolution of defensive strategies in many prehistoric Australian species. But even tapetus had to watch its back. Remember our friend Pelagornis? Yeah, these two probably didn't get along too well. Imagine the aerial dogfights between these prehistoric terrors. It'd be like Top Gun, but with more feathers and less Tom Cruise.so. Next time you're annoyed by a magpie swooping you during nesting season, just be thankful it's not a tapetus. Your bad hair day could have been a lot worse. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, it absolutely wasn't. Meet Megalodon, the shark that makes Jaws look like a goldfish. Megalodon could grow up to 18 meters long. That's about the length of a school bus. Its mouth alone was big enough to swallow a small car hole. Talk about a big fish in a big pond. But size wasn't Megalodon's only terrifying feature. Its teeth were the size of your hand, serrated like steak knives, and designed for one thing: turning large prey into shark snacks. Megalodon was the apex predator of its time. Its size and hunting capabilities were unmatched. It's both fascinating and terrifying to think about what the oceans were like when these creatures ruled the seas. If Megalodon wasn't enough to keep you out of the water, meet Kronosaurus, the sea rex that made the oceans a no-go zone for, well, everything. Kronosaurus could grow up to 11 meters long, about the size of a killer whale. But unlike our friendly flippant mammals, Kronosaurus was all teeth and attitude. Speaking of teeth, Kronosaurus had them in spades. Its mouth was lined with dozens of conical teeth, each up to 30 centimeters long. That's like having a mouthful of railroad spikes. Anything that swam into its path was in for a very bad day. Kronosaurus was a top predator in the ancient Australian seas. Its powerful jaws and streamlined body made it an efficient hunter. It's a prime example of the diverse marine reptiles that dominated the oceans during the Cretaceous period. Now, let's talk about the creature that puts the mega in the megafauna. Meet Diprotodon, the wombat that clearly didn't know when to stop growing. Diprotodon could grow up to 3 meters long and weigh up to 2,800 kilograms. That's about the size of a small elephant. Imagine a wombat big enough to use your car as a scratching post. Despite its size, Diprotodon was a gentle giant. Its teeth were built for grinding tough plants, not tearing flesh. It's like nature decided, let's make a tank, but make it vegan. Diprotodon is a classic example of island gigantism. In the absence of large predators, these marsupials evolved to massive sizes. It's fascinating to think about how they might have interacted with the first humans to arrive in Australia. If you think modern kangaroos are intimidating, wait till you meet their bigger, meaner cousin. Say G-Day to Procoptodon, the kangaroo that took the skipping leg day to a whole new level. Procoptodon stood about 2 meters tall and could weigh up to 230 kilograms. That's about twice the size of the largest modern kangaroos. Imagine a kangaroo that could look you in the eye and then probably punch you in the face. But size wasn't Procoptodon's only party trick. It had a single large toe on each foot, perfect for hopping across the arid Australian landscape. Its hands were adapted for grabbing branches, making it the bodybuilder of the kangaroo world. Procoptodon represents an interesting evolutionary path for macropods. Its adaptations suggest it was well suited for browsing on higher vegetation, filling a niche that doesn't exist for modern kangaroos. Remember the demon ducks of doom? Well, meet their slightly smaller but equally terrifying cousin, Dromornis. It's what you'd get if an emu hit the gym and started a heavy metal band. Standing at about 2 meters tall and weighing up to 240 kilograms, Dromornis was like an Standing at about 2 meters tall and weighing up to 240 kilograms, Dromornis was like an emu on steroids. Imagine a bird that could look you in the eye, and then probably peck your eyes out. Unlike its herbivorous cousin Dromornis, Dromornis was likely omnivorous. Its powerful beak could crack open tough nuts and seeds, but it wouldn't say no to a bit of meat if the opportunity arose. It's the bird equivalent of that mate who says they're vegetarian but can't resist a smag at the barbie. Dromornis is particularly interesting because it may have coexisted with the first humans to arrive in Australia. There's evidence suggesting that early Aboriginal people may have hunted these birds and even used their eggs for food and art. Just when you thought we'd run out of nightmares, along comes Thylacoleo. Imagine if a saber-toothed tiger and a kangaroo had a baby, and that baby was really, really angry. About the size of a jaguar, Thylacoleo wasn't the biggest predator in prehistoric Australia, but it was certainly one of the most unique. And by unique, I mean terrifying. The star of the show was its pair of enormous saber teeth. These weren't just big, they were so long that Thylacoleo evolved specialized sheaths in its lower jaw to protect them. It's like nature's version of a switchblade if switchblades were the size of your forearm. Thylacoleo is a fascinating example of convergent evolution. Despite not being closely related to saber-toothed cats, it evolved very similar features. It shows how similar environmental pressures can lead to similar adaptations in different animal groups. Now, let's add humans to this prehistoric nightmare fuel. Imagine being one of the first people to set foot on Australian soil about 65,000 years ago. You've just completed an epic journey across the sea, probably thinking, finally, dry land. What could go wrong? Well, mate, everything could go wrong. You step off your raft and immediately come face to face with a rhino-sized lizard, a lion that can climb trees, and birds that look like they escaped from a dinosaur theme park. The first humans to arrive in Australia faced challenges unlike anywhere else on Earth. They had to adapt quickly to an environment filled with creatures they'd never encountered before. It's a testament to human resilience and adaptability that they not only survived, but thrived. But humans, being the clever little monkeys we are, didn't just survive, we adapted. Early Aboriginal Australians developed sophisticated hunting techniques, learned which plants were edible, and which would kill you faster than a drop bear, and even figured out how to use fire to manage the landscape. One of the most ingenious techniques was fire stick farming. By strategically burning areas of land, they could promote new growth, attract game, and even help control wildfires. It's like they looked at this land of nightmares and said, "Challenge accepted, mate." Our ancestors were master survivors. They learned to read the land, to understand its rhythms and its dangers. The Dreamtime stories passed down through generations aren't just myths, they're a survival guide to living in this beautiful but deadly country. But as humans got better at surviving, many of Australia's megafauna didn't fare so well. Over thousands of years, species after species went extinct. Was it due to human hunting, climate change, or a combination of factors? That's a debate that's hotter than a summer day in the outback. Imagine being the last Diprotodon, looking around and realizing all your mates are gone. It's like being the last one to leave the pub, but instead of a hangover, you get extinction. The extinction of Australia's megafauna was likely due to a complex interplay of factors. Climate change was certainly a major player, but we can't discount the impact of human arrival. It's a sobering reminder of how drastically we can impact our environment. So, what's left of this prehistoric nightmare? Well, quite a bit, actually. Many of Australia's modern animals are like pocket-sized versions of their ancient relatives. Take the Komodo dragon, for instance. It's like Megalania decided to downsize but keep all the attitude. Or the cassowary, which is basically Dromornis after a few thousand years of anger management classes. Many of Australia's modern animals retain features of their megafauna ancestors. The thylacine, or Tasmanian tiger, which went extinct in the 1930s, was one of the last echoes of Australia's marsupial predators. So, what can we learn from Australia's prehistoric nightmare? Well, for one, that nature is incredibly resilient and adaptable. But also that even the mightiest creatures can disappear if the environment changes too quickly. Today, Australia is home to some of the world's most unique ecosystems and species. By understanding our prehistoric past, we can better protect our present and future. After all, we wouldn't want to end up like poor old Diprotodon, would we? Australia's prehistoric past is a powerful reminder of the importance of conservation. We have a responsibility to protect the unique species that call Australia home today. They may not be as big as their ancestors, but they're no less important to our ecosystem. And there you have it, folks, a journey through time to when Australia was even more of a death trap than it is today. From giant flesh-eating kangaroos to lizards the size of buses, it's a miracle anything survived at all. But survive we did, and thrive we have. Australia may no longer be the land of nightmares it once was, but it's still a place of wonder, danger, and boundless natural beauty. So next time you're swatting away flies at a barbie or dodging magpies during swooping season, just remember, it could be worse. You could be running from a Megalania. This has been Prehistoric Australia, when nightmares roam the earth. Sleep tight, and don't let the drop bears bite. Hit that subscribe button now and press on the video now popping on your screen. I am sure you will love it. Don't forget to leave a like on this video and see you there.